How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another devlog for Deli Island, the relaxing cooking game I've been developing in Unity. Recently, I've been adding random world generation to the game, and in this video I'm going to show you how I did it and why I've decided to add it to the game. Before I actually get into the world generation, I wanted to quickly talk about the main reason I decided to add it in the first place. I really felt that I wanted to add an element of exploration and curiosity to the game, and this is something I can't really achieve by making the world myself by hand. Mostly because once you've explored the world once, that's it. The sense of curiosity is gone, and the game loses a lot of replay value. And the time investment of making a world by hand is just too much for me to handle by myself. So my solution to having a more replayable world to explore was to have a system like that of the game Forager, where the player starts out on a small piece of land and has to unlock more land by spending money or unlocking certain recipes. I think this system is ideal for creating curiosity and a sense of exploration by making the player eager to find out what the next unlockable piece of land holds, whether it be a treasure room, a room with an NPC on it, or maybe just an empty room giving the player more space for their stuff. The possibilities for new rooms are endless and will really help to give the game a lot more replay value. So the first thing I did was think about the size of the world, how big I needed it to be, and where I would put the world edge. Being that the game is about living on an island, the limit would obviously be where the water is, and I thought it would be a good idea to let the players choose the size of the world, whether it be a small, medium, large, or even an extra large world, allowing them to play however they like. So now I had to figure out how I wanted to fill the island in. I decided to go for what I'm calling a room-based approach. The room will just be an 8x8 of ground tiles, and objects that I can fit on top of those tiles. I can then fit those rooms together and create the illusion of an open world, but the world will actually be composed of loads of these sort of rooms. I like this idea of the room-based approach quite a lot, mostly because of the control I have over the objects that are spawned in each room, allowing me to design the room how I want and make the world feel a little bit more handmade. So, with that idea in mind, I got to work. I started by creating a two-dimensional array of numbers. The size of the array determines the size of the world. I wanted to simplify the array as much as possible to make it easy to work with, so the numbers in each position of the array would represent a type of room that needed to be spawned there. 0 represents filler rooms. These are the rooms that are meant to fill out the world and give it a little bit of variety, whether it be an empty field or a treasure room, for example. 1 represents river or water rooms. 2 represents the mandatory or obligatory rooms. These are rooms that are meant to be spawned no matter what, whether it be the player's own starter house or some of the NPCs that have to be in the game. And 3 represents the beach rooms that will fill the border of the world. I then created a script that would populate the array accordingly. First, we search for all the rooms that are on the edge and give that position in the array a value of 3, meaning the beach room. After that, the script gets 2 random points and joins them together to create a river. These positions get a value of 2. This can be done as many times as we like, adding more rivers to the world. We then choose random positions that haven't been given a value yet, and fill those positions with a value of 2, representing the mandatory rooms. And lastly, any remaining rooms get given a value of 0, so they can be filled out with filler rooms. Perfect! Now we have an array that can be read like a minimap, and we can use that as a reference for where we spawn each room. Now we have to create a few room prefabs, add them to a list, and instantiate them in the positions given to us by the array. So let's first create a few rooms of each type. Some filler rooms, some river rooms that have a start and an end so they can join to one another. We'll create 1 mandatory room for the starter house, and finally, the beach rooms. We then get these prefabs and add them to the correct list where they'll be spawned from. There is a bit of a problem though. For example, say we were to try and spawn a random filler room on the right side of another filler room. That seems to work fine. Now let's try to spawn it on its left side. That still works fine. And we can change the side we spawn it on, and no matter what, it will fit together perfectly, because of the way the room was made. But if we try to do this with the river rooms, for example, it all falls apart. The rivers have a start and an end, and they need to join together for it to look good. So the solution to this is to treat the rooms like a rule tile. We have to check the room's neighbours and spawn the room that fits in that position depending on the neighbouring rooms that surround it. For example, let's say we have this water room in the array. It has a neighbour above and to its left. Our river room will check every room that surrounds it. If that room's type is the same as its own type, then we will add that room's position to an array on our room prefab known as neighbours. Once we have that array, we can quickly calculate where the neighbouring room's positions are relative to our original room, We can then compare these results with the rooms in our river list and instantiate the correct prefab accordingly. Great! With that done, let's put it all together and see how it works. First, we fill out the array with beach rooms. Then come the river rooms, the mandatory rooms, and finally, the filler rooms. We then check each room's neighbours and save that information. And lastly, we instantiate all the rooms accordingly. Perfect! A new randomly generated world. And every time we load the game, we have a new randomly generated world to explore. It all feels a little bit repetitive though, because we haven't really added much variety of rooms yet. But the beauty of this system means creating new rooms is really easy. All we have to do is create a new room prefab, design it however we like, and add it to one of the lists on the world generation script. And we have a new room added to the game without touching a line of code. This is going to be essential to being able to add content to the game quickly in the future. A bit of a glaring problem that I imagine you've all noticed by now is how square the world looks. Even though when you're actually playing the game it's not very noticeable, it's still something that I want to fix in the future. There are a couple of ways I could go about fixing it though. For example, we could add another step to the world generation system and empty some of the edge tiles randomly and fill them back in a couple of times to create a more organic feeling island. But I'm not sure on how I want to go about it yet, so if anyone has any ideas on cool ways to make the island feel more organic, feel free to leave a comment down below. I know there are probably a million better ways to make the world generation for the game, but I enjoy the challenge of trying to make something myself, and even though it's probably not the most original or efficient system, it's one that works for my game, and for me. And at least for now, that's good enough. An interesting feature this system allows me to have is the ability to control how many rooms of any type I want to spawn. This feature is really useful, because it will allow me to create a way for the player to personalise the world they want to play in. So when a player is about to start a new world, we can let them choose if they want more or less of a certain room to spawn. This will allow the player to give themselves a challenge if they wanted to. For example, they could challenge themselves by filling the world with desert rooms, making it more difficult to grow crops and make certain dishes. Or they could fill the world with water rooms, forcing themselves to make more fish-based dishes. I think this feature is a really cool way to add replayability to the game, and to also add a new challenge for those who want it, helping to avoid making the game feel stale and repetitive. That's about everything I've added when it comes to the world generation for the moment. Recently I also made a new house sprite to fit the world better. I liked the last one, but it was just too big and I think this one fits the style of the game a lot better now. But that's just about everything that's been added to the game lately. I just wanted to take a quick moment to address and apologise for not uploading in a long time. I've had a couple personal problems recently that I had to take care of and development had to stop for a while. But things seem to be looking a lot better now, and hopefully development and uploads will be a lot more consistent. I also just wanted to talk about the last video I uploaded about the combat system. I wanted to thank everyone for all the comments and the constructive criticism I got. A lot of people said that the combat system didn't fit the game and that it was just confusing, and honestly, you were all completely right. I was so excited to add a new feature to the game that I tried to force and shoehorn in a new mechanic that didn't make any sense. I've removed the combat from the game for now, and I'll try to revisit it at some point in the future. But that's about it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like and subscribe so as to not miss the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.